Hello everybody, I'm Angersogo. Welcome back to another tier list. Today, I'm going away from specific gens this week's video, with champions being out roughly a week, maybe a little bit longer than that now. After absolutely spamming doubles VGC, I wanted to make a video about a tier list on the viability of the Pokemon for doubles. So this is a doubles specific tier list, as you can see in the top tier. This video is for educational purposes, I guess. Also, I wanted to vent a little bit how certain Pokemon are underrated, overrated, vice versa. But hopefully it can be helpful to you guys, especially newer players, getting into champions and wondering who they should pick opposed to who they want to pick. Obviously, when building a team, you have to take both of those things into consideration. So to, I guess, briefly explain the tiers, F is the worst, so I will pick one singular Pokemon that goes in that tier, worst Pokemon. D tier is no real reason to pick, simple as. C is Pokemon that are either kind of mid, they're too niche and require too much to work, or they're more singles dependent, if they are heavily used for singles and never really doubles, like Salt Pokemon for example. B is Pokemon that are still viable, but typically have better options. Again, not as much reason to pick them, but they still can work, or they're just not as good as A tier S tier ones. A is really viable, so Pokemon that you pick will more than likely be viable. And then S tier is the Pokemon that if you want to pick Pokemon that just are the best, that's the Pokemon in that tier. And at the end I'll do who I believe is the top 5 most viable mons as of Regulation A. So starting off in F tier, there is certainly a couple of mons that fit the bill. But after further consideration and evaluating what Pokemon I think are considered to be worse, I'm going with Watchog. Unfortunately, Watchog is not great. Whilst Analytic is an okay ability, he's never going to get use out of it unless he has a Sash. And regardless, the Analytic boost is not going to save his lackluster attacking stats. Defensively, he's not there. He has some okay support moves, like most Pokemon tend to have, like the Thunder Wave, the Toxic, those kind of things. Super Fang is probably his best move, able to half the health of the opponent's Pokemon. But then, well, Analytic's then useless because Analytic doesn't boost Super Fang. Pure Normal's a meh type, so all in all, Watchog is the worst for doubles. Then in D tier, there is still a considerable amount of Pokemon. Just to preface as well, the positioning of these Pokemon in D tier are probably not going to represent how good they are in that tier. They'll be there or thereabouts. So if there's Pokemon towards the top of D tier, then that's what they are. Or if they're at the bottom, then they're close to being an F. So from Gen 1, there isn't many. Regular Tauros kind of stinks. And also put the Paldean Tauros. Has Intimidate, which is nice, but there's literally no real reason to pick this because there are so many better Intimidate mons. This is literally the worst one. Offensively, they're not great, and they are more singles dependent than the other Intimidate mons in my opinion. And then you also have Pikachu, who currently does not have Mega Stone. So when it gets Mega Stones, it'll either go into like low B tier, I reckon. But at the moment, there is literally no real reason to pick it. I don't even think the Light Ball's in the game, so you could argue it's worse than Watchog, but Pikachu has better moves. As far as Gen 3 goes, there's none in Gen 2 that are in the D tier. Gen 3, you have Castform, because realistically, there's no actual reason to pick Castform because there are other weather setters. And you could have some offensive set, you know, give it like the Blizzards, the Thunders and stuff to accompany other terrain mons. It's not going to do any damage. There's no Life Orb, so... as far as Gen 4 goes, in my opinion, Toxicroak is like high D. There isn't really any reason to pick. I mean, Dry Skin's a good ability, can be okay in doubles, but in terms of offense, he sets up Swords Dance, and he's going to require a couple to actually do any real damage, even if he does have Priority Sucker Punch against certain Pokemon like Gengar, which could be good, but he is just very weak. There's so many other Pokemon that don't even require setup and will do more damage, so in my opinion Toxicroak is in this D tier. And then you have some of the Rotoms. In my opinion, you've got this Rotom, which is arguably one of the worst. Stat-wise, it's not great, has good speed and has some good moves, but that's about it. And then you have this Electric Flying Rotom, the Rotom Fan. Obviously, it's one of the worst because realistically, why the fuck is it an Electric Flying type with Levitate? I don't know. Regardless, it is in D tier. Gen 5, there's a couple. So, first of all, you have the Stunfisks. The Stunfisks are very obviously, but again, there's no real reason to pick these. They don't do anything. The only benefit, I guess, is of the type. but like even Galarian Stunfisk is Steel Dark. And then obviously you have the Elemental Monkeys who kind of get made fun of. They're still not worse than Stunfisk. And Simipour is actually not completely awful, but there still isn't really any reason to pick it, I'll be honest. And then you've got Emolga, who in my opinion is like low end again of D tier. It's just one of those Pokemon that I don't think actually does provide much benefit. He's there for Tailwind, that's about it. Other Pokemon have Tailwind, which are much better, so again, there's no real reason to pick Emolga. Then going to Gen 6, and Pokemon like Furfrou are fairly obvious. Furfrou does have some good support moves, so there is more of a reason to pick it. Has moves like Snarl, which can be annoying to play against, and pure normal type is not an awful defensive typing. It's not great offensively, but he's not for that. Pangoro is a physical mon that just doesn't do particularly much. Iron Fist is an okay ability, but doesn't do much damage. He's got relatively okay bulk. His stat distribution is a little bit all over the place. It's just kind of meh. So because his whole purpose is just damage, there is much better Pokemon that do that, so there's no reason to pick him. Gourgeist is pretty crap as well, to be honest. I'd probably put Gourgeist around low end of D because his whole purpose that he had was singles and that he was a spin blocker. You don't really see rapid spin in doubles, so for that reason he is low end of D. He doesn't do much else. You then have Aromatisse. Aromatisse is just a bulky fairy type, which isn't bad, to be honest, but then again, he also doesn't do anything else. Helioptile is a bit of a weird one, can work in certain sun teams as well as rain teams. Then we have Helioptile, who's a bit of a weird Pokemon, can work in weather teams, sun and rain teams, but he doesn't particularly do a lot. I would never really choose to pick him optionally, so I don't think he gets any higher than D. You then got the Avlugs, who are obviously very bulky, but don't exceed in doubles because the bulk that they have is better used in singles. Obviously, in doubles, they could theoretically just get that extra bulk and not die physically with hail or with snow, rather not hail anymore. But regardless, I would never... That doesn't give them enough of a reason to be picked. In Trick Room, they don't do enough damage without a lot of setup, so have a look and stay in D. We then have Pokemon that is a bit of a shame, but is just a worse version than Mega Blastoise. We do have Clawitzer, sorry. He's high end of D because he can do decent damage with Mega Launcher, but he's so slow. He's not the bulkiest. He is relatively bulky, especially. He has Flip Turn, but he can easily be killed. Trick Room isn't enough to give him a super advantage, so there isn't a real reason to pick it. And when Mega Blastoise exists, why would you pick Clawitzer? It's a shame because I love Clawitzer, but we then have Vivian. Vivian is like high end D. Again, in my opinion, there's no reason to pick this. It does have setup with Quiver Dance and can do okay damage, but it is more of a singles mon. When you get a Vivian in random battles, it's not bad. You can sleep powder an opponent, Quiver Dance up, get a couple kills. In doubles, it's not as easy as that. So for that reason, he is more of a liability, so he stays in D tier. And then the final Pokemon who's got the very top of D tier, which may surprise you, is Florges. Now hear me out, I know you're thinking Florges is a good mon. Because Mega Floette exists and Floette, you literally have no real reason to pick Florges. They have the same stats, essentially the same moves. Mega Floette is just better. Fairy Aura is broken. So that's all of D tier. There is a decent amount, but it is still nothing compared to any of the other tiers. In C tier, there's going to be a lot. So Pidgeot is in C tier because Tailwind is good. No Guard Pidgeot can do damage, but there are just better options. So, and to get reliable, consistent damage, he does kind of want to be in singles opposed to doubles. Arbonk is C, a little bit, to be honest, probably on the same level as Pidgeot. Intimidate, Sucker Punch potential, Glare, got good support moves, can Earthquake spam. That's about it. We then have Alolan Raichu, who... Alolan Raichu normally is quite good. But because of the current meta, how there is no electric terrain mons, and there's nothing that sets it automatically, Surge Surfer becomes a useless ability, so he just therefore requires manual electric terrain to take advantage of that speed, and that is a bit too niche, so if anything, Raichu is C tier at the moment. We then have, in my opinion, Machamp, who is C tier as well. Whilst having good abilities, no guard guts, his stat distribution is a little bit like Pangoro's. He doesn't do a lot of damage. He can be annoying, he can get crits with Stone Edge never missing or Dynamic Punch always landing confusing, but that is the extent. He does kind of get destroyed by the current meta, with there being loads of Gengars, Floats, and Gardevoirs, and even Sylveons flying about, so there's no actual real reason to pick him. You then have Victreebel, who is actually not awful. Mega Victreebel can work in Trick Room okay, and does work in some teams, but they just for some reason gave him Aftermath as his Mega ability, so he pretty much just became for that reason. He was a Pokemon that had potential to go up higher to B tier, or potentially even low A tier if it got the triage or even the thick fat that it was rumoured to get. Aftermath is just awful. And regular Victreebel isn't good enough to save it going any higher than that. Then you got Pinsir, who Mega Pinsir is okay. Can do good damage with Aerial 8. Regular Pinsir is awful. Stealth Rocks aren't very common, but if they do exist, you do get severely neutered. And he doesn't do enough of anything else to kind of counteract that. So he is pretty mid. Have Ditto, who I still consider to be a C tier mon at the moment, because whilst it could theoretically be good because you can steal stat changes, you can just annoy people's plans and you can disrupt. That's kind of Ditto's whole purpose, but he is much more of a singles like viable mon than doubles, so he goes in C tier. And then got Vaporeon, who's a very bulky water type, who actually does have more utility than a lot of these mons. He is essentially a worse version of Milotic with a worse ability. If he had like Storm Drain opposed to Water Absorb, he'd easily be higher, but Water Absorb just doesn't provide the same benefit. You can't draw any water moves and you don't get any boosts, so that's the reason why he's in C tier. Flareon also is in C tier because he is in a similar boat to Garchomp. He's in a similar boat to Machamp. Obviously, they both have guts. However, obviously, Flareon's fire type, so he can't get burned. So the Poison Orb, which is worse, he also requires speed, similar to Machamp, so they kind of stay in the same boat. You then have Ariados, who isn't as viable as he would have been normally, because in doubles, while Sticky Webs is probably the best hazard move, it really isn't very often that you see hazards being used, and even if you do, speed control is so popular with Tailwind, with Icy Wind users, with Trick Room users even, so there's a risk to Sticky Webs now. I mean, there always has been, but it does feel like there's even more of a risk to Sticky Webs. Ampharos is a bit mid, to be honest. It's just a bulky electric type that can hit multiple targets with Discharge, which is pretty solid. And Mega Ampharos does have Mold Breaker, but that doesn't save it to put it any higher than C. Umbreon, in my opinion, is the same boat as Vaporeon. I'd say arguably worse. I think Pure Dark type is possibly worse than Pure Water, and Synchronize is a slightly worse ability. So Umbreon's fine in C. Fortress is in C, kind of for the same reasons as Ariados. Hazard stat can be annoying to play against, and Sturdy doesn't have as much viability. But the thing is, if you get faked out, or you just kind of get left alone on the field, if you are just hazard stack, you kind of just throw the game. So, again, especially in doubles, hazards are a risk. Then there is Steelix, who unfortunately is pretty mid as well. Completely and utterly relies on Trick Room because he gets outsped by almost everything. He has no special defense, so becomes a liability from that standpoint. And in Trick Room, he doesn't do enough damage. Daraball can do good damage. Body Press obviously does good damage, but that's just the problem with him. Like, he needs all those things to even have a chance of being well. So he's very niche. Then in C tier, you have Camerupt. I think he's high end of C, possibly low B. The problem with Camerupt is obviously his typing. Eruption in Trick Room can do a lot of damage, especially with Mega, because Mega Camerupt has like 150 special attack or something ridiculous like that. It's really high. Obviously, the problem is that you need to get out of Trick Room first of all, which is still easy enough with Farigiraf. But because of how constant weather walls are currently right now, Camerupt doesn't have as much place as he normally would. When more Pokemon get into the game, he'll slowly get more and more viable because more people have different teams. But he kind of doesn't get high C at the moment. Banette, frankly, is kind of in a similar vein. Banette has a weird stat distribution. Regular Banette is kind of frail, not particularly quick, can do good damage, but Mega Banette is where Banette in general exceeds. He is way more singles based. Prankster Destiny Bond is still good. Prankster Psych Up in doubles to get some potential like belly drum boost or something can be very good. Doesn't have the best coverage, and obviously Pure Ghost isn't the best type in the world, but it's not the worst. But because he, again, similar to something like a Steelix or a Camerupt, because he relies on all these different things, he does kind of stay in like high-ish C tier. Then you have Roserade in C. I would say Roserade is a little bit weird, because he can still be good, Roserade, because he has Toxic Spikes, he can do okay damage, he has certain access to weather moves, so he can work in weather teams. But he does kind of stay sort of around the range of Victory Bell, Pidgeot, those kind of Pokemon. Because he isn't much more than a Supportmon, and he doesn't do enough to do significant damage, and he can't last long enough to stall things out, so a C is the highest he can even get. Bastiodon is a good defensive Pokemon, but that is about it. Can be relatively good to Metal Burst, troll people, and you can get hazards. That is about it. Body Press can be frightening. You do have obviously good defense, special defense, but you don't really do anything else. Rampardos is in a similar vein, except on the offensive end. You got really high attack, no speed, and you're surprisingly frail. In Trick Room or Choice Scarf or in Tailwind, you can do good damage. Obviously, there's risks to lock yourself into a move if you are Scarf, so you do become a bit vulnerable. But he does need a lot to make him work, so like Steelix and like Banette, he is in C tier. Spiritom's a good support mod, in all fairness. Can get access to moves like Snarl. He's good typing, he's bulky, he's immune to Fake Out. Will Wisp as well, and even Pain Split. I just know for that reason I'm putting him a bit higher. He's a bit higher in my opinion to actually provide support. But he doesn't do anything offensively, really, other than like foul play. So even if he can set up, he's not going to do much damage. Then you have Leafeon. Leaf Guard Leafeon is just awful. The only redeeming factor about Leafeon is his high defenses, but he literally doesn't do anything. He doesn't have enough damage output to actually make use of anything like that. He's on par with Raichu, he just has no use. But objectively, he's much better than any of the Mons in D tier. I mean, maybe you could make a case to go a little bit lower than Cloyster, but like he's on the verge of either one of them, to be honest. And this is a bit of a hot take. I'm gonna put Rotom Grass in like high C. Maybe you could argue he is like a little bit better, and maybe in like low B tier, because generally he's not bad. He doesn't have any necessarily downsides to him. Like typing is good, stat spread is good. He's surprisingly bulky. He's okay speed. You give him a Scarf, he can do good damage because he has Leaf Storm. He has his Volt Switch and stuff. But Grass isn't an offensive type that is like super good right now. Rain teams consist of like Archulodon mostly, with Dragonite, which obviously don't do anything, like Grass does nothing to them. Basculegion and Palafin can work, but at the same time, Basculegion can easily still kill a Rotom or a most Grass type with Last Respect. Palafin can do the same with Ice Punch. So I don't think Rotom Fan has much viability compared to especially the Rotom forms, but like a lot of other Pokemon. Samurott, in my opinion, is a bit mid. Can be okay offensively, can set up and do relatively okay damage. But in my opinion, he does kind of go towards the bottom of C tier because he requires all that. He should have a secondary type in Pure Water. It doesn't help him here. If he was Water Steel, maybe he'd go higher, but and he has a bit of a variability. Audino. I actually forgot Audino from D tier now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, Audino just is like in a similar vein to Aromatisse. It's a bulky normal type that becomes very tight with Mega. It's a wasted Mega slot. Healer isn't good enough to make it any better. You then have the Snow Duo here. A relatively quick Aurora Veil Pokemon in Vanillux is not bad. You could argue it has a little bit more viability than Camerupt because it doesn't require all the stuff that it needs to work, but I guess the high end of Camerupt working is better than Vanillux, but Vanillux is probably more consistent than a Camerupt, because Aurora Veil and a quick Pokemon with Aurora Veil and Snow Warning is pretty good. Beartic is a pretty meh Snow Sweeper. He doesn't, even though he does get Slush Rush, he isn't strong enough to actually take advantage of it and do real damage. And then you have, in my opinion, probably the last one from Gen 5, Garbodor, Toxic Spike Spammer. It's relatively bulky. Aftermath, again, is also a bit of a shit ability, but it does have Poison Touch, I think, so that could be okay. Has no other usage outside of that, so he is low C tier. Moving on to Gen 6, Diggersby and Bunnelby. Diggersby's like high C. Can do good damage, but doesn't have as much utility as he does in singles. The Meowstic male is actually not bad. Because of how constant Intimidators are, competitive is a really good ability. But she doesn't do enough damage to really be picked over other Pokemon with competitive, so I think C tier is fine. Slurpuff is a Sticky Webs mon with potential to set up with Belly Drum. You can do some interesting sweeps with that, so she's kind of like mid C tier. In my opinion, Aurorus is in a similar vein. I'd say probably worse than something like a Vanillux because Aurorus is so slow that Aurora Veil might not even come off. Tyrantrum is a fast, solid damage dealing Pokemon. You can give it a Choice Scarf to make sure it outspeeds a lot of mons. Head Smash can nuke things, Rock Slide can potentially flinch. Get Earthquake for coverage as well. Honestly, Tyrantrum is not bad, but certain Pokemon that exist in the higher tiers kind of just wall it. Doesn't give it as much viability in my opinion. You could maybe make a case for like high B to be consistent, but I think it doesn't really. I think high C is fine. Then got Goodra, who regular Goodra is kind of mid. It's bulky, it has good coverage, doesn't do much support wise. Offensively, like I said, it has good moves and it has good stats, but that doesn't give it enough to be viable, right? You can have good stats, you can have good moves. Goodra's abilities are meh. Setup is meh. You're naturally a bit slow. Pokemon will just destroy you if you're not in an advantageous lead at the minimum, so Goodra doesn't get hide and see. Both Decidueyes are kind of mid as well, in my opinion. They don't have as much support as they probably should do. They don't do the most amount of damage either because regular Decidueye is mixed. Regular Decidueye is mixed, and Hisuian Decidueye, whilst it's more physical, doesn't still do enough, even with having one of the most broken moves of all time with Triple Arrows, even though it did get nerfed. Your abilities are also very bad. Toucannon, to be honest, is like super low C. To be honest, arguably like low D as well. One thing that Toucannon does have, which is really, really good, especially in doubles, is Beak Blast. I mean, the contact moves with Toucannon burn the opponent, which can be really annoying to play against, especially with fake out mons. So if they don't make the play right, if they are a bit silly, it can be quite good. But outside of that, he has no viability really, so that's why it's low C. In my opinion, the Lycanrocs are all pretty crap. They're okay damage dealers that are relatively quick, relatively strong, and Midnight Form has no guard. But I don't think that's enough to me to save them. They really don't exceed in anything other than speed. Another one would be Mudsdale. A bulky Pokemon that can stay alive for quite long, can set up staminas, can do okay damage, can spam Earthquake with a Pokemon have immunities, so Flying types or Levitate mons, which is quite nice. But not the most specially bulky, and pure Ground type isn't the best defensive typing when water is so common, so it does kind of mean that he falls off a little bit. One Pokemon that I do think is in C tier now, which I'm so fucking glad, is Toxapex. Toxapex is such a bulky mon that has literally no offensive output whatsoever, and because Baneful Bunker is so broken in singles, it isn't as broken in doubles because you can't stall. Well, you can't stall as consistently as you can in singles. Because Pokemon can double in, they can make the right reads, and there's two Pokemon that could potentially be super effective, and there's no Terra currently, you are way at disadvantage when trying to stall. So Pokemon like Toxapex are considerably worse in doubles, which I'm gassed with. Salazzle is like high C because a quick Will Whisper, a quick Encore user, a quick Toxic user into Steel types with immunity is still pretty good. It makes it really surprisingly annoying to play against. You don't come across Salazzles very often, but still, when they do come across, it is quite annoying. Pissimian is also C. Pissimian is a mon that actually could potentially be okay with the amount of Intimidate mons, because with Define he gets a +2 attack boost, and with the Intimidate mons that are currently out, it can be pretty good. He can destroy a Incineroar, he can destroy a Suin Arcanine, for example, or a Crocodile, but he does rely on that, otherwise Pissimian is pretty crap, which is a shame again because I love Pissimian. But we have Flapple and Appleton. Okay Pokemon in all fairness, that can do good damage, and Appleton is relatively bulky, but with Snow Teams being fairly common, Pokemon like Appleton just don't really have a place, and Flapple doesn't do enough damage with Hustle, and with no Choice Band to actually reliably pick up kills. Sucker Punch is the best bit about it. So, we then do have, I forgot this Pokemon's name, Sandaconda. Again, to me, is a bit mid. Can set up sand, which is okay, requires to be hit. Also has good moves like support, has good moves like glare, right? Can quick spam again. But he doesn't exceed in anything to me, so he's a bit too niche and a bit too mid to actually have much benefit. Another Pokemon would be my boy Mr. Rhyme. Has no value other than Screen Cleaner. That's a good enough value. Light Screams are still used, not as often, so that's why he's low end to C, because it is very niche. To be honest, Weird Ear is like high C. Has really good moves. Has the Trick Room, has Intimidate, has Thunder Wave, has good stab, can be run physically or mixed. But there is just so many other better options for Trick Rooms, for Intimidators, that I think he is C. I don't think you have as much reason to pick Weird Ear, other than maybe like its type. Morpeko is C. It's like low C because it does have good moves like Fake Out. I think it has Fake Out. I really hope it does, because I've definitely used that before. Parting Shot, things of that nature. It's very quick, but he is very weak. He doesn't do a lot of damage. He is a very glorified support mon that isn't bulky enough to use support moves as often, so he's like mid to high C tier maybe at most. Skeletor's in C tier for the fact that he is kind of in a similar vein to like Ampharos, or even a bit lower, maybe because he's bulky, unaware is good, he's very slow, therefore relies on Trick Room, he doesn't do a lot of damage, requires on Torch Song. He is more used in singles because it's easier to get set up, it's easier to get good swap-ins, you don't have to worry as much, so he doesn't have as much of a place, unfortunately. And then Quaquaval I also put in C, because in my opinion Quaquaval is a bit meh. He's high into C because if you get a couple of Moxie boosts he can work, but he is such a meh speed stat, like relies on Tailwind. He doesn't have the highest, I think he's got 120 attacks, so it's not even that high. He is relatively bulky on both sides though, which is kind of what redeems him, but because he's a bit all over the place, he is kind of like high C tier. Garg is in a similar boat to kind of like Toxapex, but I'd say Salt Cure is slightly more annoying. Bellibolt is a slow Pokemon that relies on Trick Room, that also needs to get hit to do more damage. A bit meh, to be honest, Bellibolt. He's typically only good in locks. Earthworm is like low end of C. Shed Tail's good. Outside of that, Earth Power Earth Eater is literally its only real benefit, and I guess being a pure steel type, but that's about it. That's all from C. Now there's going to be a lot of B tier mons, so I'm gonna rattle through them quickly. Adaptability Mega Beedrill is good, does a lot of damage, but is very frail. Regular Ninetales is a decent Sunsetter, but does, in my opinion, lack compared to Torkoal and Mega Charizard. Hisuian Arcanine is a consistent damage dealer that works in a lot of teams. Intimidate is nice, but does, in my opinion, lack because of his awful typing. Alakazam isn't as viable as he is in singles. He is an okay size spammer with a meta that doesn't really have size spam at the moment because there is no Indeedee. So otherwise it's just there to be a decent damage dealer, but is a bit more singles dependent, so he's like low end of B. In my opinions, the Slowbros are good physical walls that are there to also potential be size spam. Mega Slowbro can be really, really bulky and annoying to play against. Galarian Slowbro can be known with quick draw, quick claw. That's about it. Kangaskhan got severely nerfed. It's still a pretty good support mon with Fake Out, Helping Hand, things of that nature. But the fact that it doesn't have Power Up Punch anymore means it doesn't do any real damage. Body Slam, Parental Bond can still be annoying to play against with the increased powers, so that is what saves him. Paldean Tauroses are both very solid intimidators. The Aqua Breed is obviously better with Aqua Jet. That's priority. Close Combat's good stab. They get bulk up and speed boosting moves like Trailblaze, so they can work in pretty much most teams in doubles, but they just don't exceed a lot, so that's why they're in B tier. Jolteon is a quick electric type with Discharge, also has relatively okay coverage now. No Terror, unfortunately, which does make him a little bit worse. But he is still more viable than Alakazam, and has more of a reason to pick than any of the other evolutions so far. Snorlax is a relatively okay Trick Room mon that can set up belly drums with Fake Out support and do a lot of damage. Does rely on a couple of things though, like I said, so he does kind of stay in that mid B tier. Meganium isn't as good as people were expecting, unfortunately. It's still pretty solid and an okay anti-meta pick into certain ice teams. The only problem with Meganium though, unfortunately, he is still very slow. So he does get outsped by a lot of things and killed by a lot of things. So he does really not have as much of a place as people originally thought. Typhlosion is a solid eruption spammer. Isn't better though in my opinion than Hisuian Arcanine because of the pure fire type. If it was Hisuian Typhlosion, which Hisuian Typhlosion is rated higher because Ghost type means he's immune to Fake Out. Azumarill is a consistent mon in my opinion that works in most ways as support, or you can even go offensive. But again, I think there's a lot of ways to kind of deal with Azumarill, especially in today's meta. So I don't really have him higher than this. If it was like a B+, these two would be in the B+ tier. Politoed is a pretty good range setter in my opinion. He's in a similar boat to Ninetales in my opinion, but he just does not outseed Pelipper in any way, shape or form. The Slowkings are also relatively solid. I would probably put them around the same vein as the Slowbros. Chili Reception is better though. They have more pivoting options, but they don't have as much support. They don't do as much damage, so they aren't as good as these four are in singles. Espeon is not as good as Jolteon in my opinion. Has more utility though than Alakazam because of Magic Bounce to deal with parting shot mons, things of that nature, Prankster. So Espeon still has more of a role, but doesn't do too well in much of the things. It's quite frail, and offensively it is okay. Scizor, whilst in singles, is an absolute beast. In my opinion, Scizor isn't super duper consistent because of how consistent weather wars are right now, with sun teams being as popular as, and even rain teams, Scizor can't really do much too. And with Pokemon like Frigoraph being as popular as they are, you get nerfed pretty much completely. No Bullet Punch, no priority whatsoever. Heracross objectively is a good mon. Mega Heracross is still good. Is a glorified Trick Room mon, however, that can do consistent damage, but relies on a lot of that. Regular Heracross, the only positive thing is the fact that if he gets burnt, he gets the boost from Guts. That's literally it. Skarmory is, in my opinion, like at the moment, like B tier, because Mega Skarmory has Stalwart, which is a very good ability. That isn't as viable right now because there's only Sinister with Rage Powder. When Pokemon like Amoonguss and more Pokemon of that nature get added, he's going to be even better. Aggron is, again, a pretty solid Trick Room mon that doesn't necessarily require anything like Belly Drum. Mega Aggron in Trick Room with Iron Defense, with Gyro Ball, with Body Press can do a lot of damage. I'll be honest, I haven't seen Aggron much, which is fine. But he is still fun to play. Then I have Medicham, who, in my opinion, isn't as good as Azumarill, but still has a place in doubles. Huge Power can still do a lot of damage, and one thing that is pretty cool that I do like about Medicham, which is like only one thing ever, is Skill Swap Huge Power. It's very fun. Manectric is a solid B tier mon. Intimidate, Discharge Spam, can work well in weather teams, so he's like mid to high B tier. Sharpedo's also okay, right? If you can, he's a relatively okay anti-meta pick when you get a couple speed boosts off. You can outspeed Pokemon like Gengar, one shot, but that's about as much usage as he has. Altaria is kind of meh, but niche ability of Cloud9, getting rid of weather, or negating nether effects, so like Weather Ball becomes normal type again, is pretty cool. But outside of that, Altaria is kind of poo. Torkoal is like high A tier, I think. Honestly, he probably is close to being an A. I do love Torkoal, but Charizard Y is so popular and so much better currently that Torkoal does kind of fall off. In my opinion, Mega Chimecho is actually pretty solid. Support-wise, it's relatively good. And the Steel Psychic-type with Levitate can be very good. Absol is also decent. Does okay damage. Mega Absol has Magic Bounce, doesn't have as much usage, but still can be good. Glalie with Moody can be annoying to play against, but outside of that, he does kind of stink. Torterra is... Actually, I missed Torterra actually from C tier. Torterra is a Pokemon that can set up with Shell Smash and do good damage. Outside of that, though. Empoleon is high B tier. In my opinion, he is a little bit worse than Milotic because of the typing. If he was a pure water type with competitive, and he didn't have to worry about like fighting type or ground types, he would be so much better. Infernape's a decent mon with Fake Out, with priority. Upper Hand can work against opposing priority mons like Incineroar and flinch them, which is nice. That's about it. Weavile's a decent Fake Out mon as well that can do okay damage, but he doesn't have any good abilities or anything like that. He's kind of like mid B tier, I think. Abomasnow and Hippowdon are like fine in their own right as weather mons. Definitely better than the mons that are in that tier, obviously apart from Tyranitar and the other Hell Setters, but they don't go any higher than B. Rhyperior is also a relatively fun Trick Room Pokemon that I'd play with, and I've used many times. Requires he requires Sand to help with that bulk. He is, unfortunately, that because of weakness policy not existing, he actually does go down. I did forget that, which is a shame. But when weakness policy gets brought back into the game, he can work very well. So hold on, ladies and gentlemen. B tier, I'd also put Lopunny. Not my favourite mon, but a pretty good mon that pressures ghost types and stuff with Scrappy. Glaceon Glaceon with Bright Powder and Snow Cloak, missing a lot of moves, can be pretty good. Outside of that, he's kind of meh. Gallade is like high B tier, wide guard support, really offensive pressure with sharpness, and his Mega's pretty good as well. Mamoswine's decent. He's kind of like high B tier. He can also go the Snow Cloak route as well. And he's really bulky with thick fat. Does pretty consistent damage as well. Kind of all around, Mamoswine is pretty good, but he just doesn't exceed him much, so I can't really put him higher than B. Rotom Fridge is a decent Blizzard spammer. Outside of that, he's kind of... Superior can work. Offensively is pretty good, but does needs some good support to effectively work. Embor is also decent, kind of in the same boat as Superior, to be honest. Hisuian Samurot's like high A. This is one of the situations where Hazard Stack is fine, because you attack Pokemon to then get hazards up. Hisuian Samurott also is a good typing, has priority options. I'm also going to put Cleavar in the same boat as Hisuian Samurott because they do similar things. Purloin is an okay support one with Prankster. That type's also good for Prankster. Fake Out, which is pretty nice. Is very frail though, and not much offensively is going on. Conkeldur's a surprisingly okay Trick Room on with very good consistent damage. Priority options as well, but just has really bad special defense. Koffigrigus and Runerigus are like pretty meh Trick Room mons. Like, there's definitely better options, which is why they're kind of like the lower end of B. But Runerigus is a bit better because of the typing. Regular Zoroark is okay. Illusion is pretty fun to play with, but being pure dark does make him a slightly worse type. Whereas obviously Hisuian Zoroark is much better because of the typing. And offensively, I'm pretty sure there's more going on with Hisuian Typhlosion. Reneglis is B, a good mon with good abilities, pretty solid Trick Room mon to be honest. Can go offensive, can go bulky. I can't really say much else than that. Has good coverage, has good setup. We then have Chandelure, which is a shame that it's in B because a lot of people were expecting this to be a lot better. So was I, to be honest, but they kind of nerfed it with Infiltrator. But if you can give it another ability with like skill swap and stuff, it can work quite well. Still has 160 special attack, so it's really good offensively. I'm putting Hydreigon in B as well because with how common Fairy is, it's a bit more risky, but a good speed stat on Hydreigon can allow it to do consistent damage. Regular Meowstic is kind of meh, in my opinion. Like, it's an okay support one, but I wouldn't even say it's better than Lipard. It just has screens, which is about it. A Mega Meowstic is pretty crap. If it had Psychic Surge, it'd be mint, but it has Trace. Chestnut is a relatively bulky mon that can work. Bulletproof is pretty crap, but can work in niche situations. It's like mid B tier in my opinion. Talonflame is a relatively okay support mon in B tier. Gale Wings is a fine ability even though it got nerfed. Getting Tailwind up with priority if you avoid Fake Out is quite nice. That's about it. In my opinion, Holucha is like high B tier because the no guard entrainment stuff, whilst is a bit gimpy, is still a good strategy that works. It will get banned, so Holucha will just kind of stay in B tier because offensively it's still good. But no guard high jump kick isn't even that scary with Mega Holucha because Protect exists and it just is a very big risk. If he had Reckless, it'd be fine. But that's about it. Hisuian Goodra is a special wall, and with Life Dew strats, you can kind of subdue a lot of teams by just existing. And you have decent offensive output, but that is about it for Goodra, unfortunately. Klefki is a relatively good support mon. You have a lot of options for moves, and even Magnet Rise can be quite annoying to play against. Just like high end of B. Trevenant I also forgot about. Trevenant's kind of like mid B tier because... Sorry, Trevenant's like mid C tier because it has good moves. It has access like Will-O-Wisp and stuff. Unfortunately, it does lack in the stat department. It's not the bulkiest thing either side. Offensively, it's not anything crazy. And it's got a bit of a mess speed stat. He's kind of like a Luxray in my opinion, so he does stay in C tier. You then have Neuven, who is like low B, but is a pretty solid but is a pretty solid Tailwind mon. Offensively, it has good coverage, but doesn't exceed offensively, so it doesn't do a lot of damage. Can work in weather teams with like Hurricane spam, so all in all, Neuven's decent. This is gonna be a bit of a hot take. I'm gonna put, in my opinion, I'm gonna put Arachnid high B because entrainment water bubble's good, but more than anything, sticky webs is obviously great. But because of how uncommon it is, it brings him a lot lower down. But what redeems him is because it's a very special, it's very heavily special dependent meta currently. I would say it does help Arachnid become more viable. Serena is in B tier. I'd say low B tier, but in B tier for the pure reason of Queenly Majesty being an absolutely incredible ability. Like Armor Tail, it prevents priority, so if there's an Incineroar out or someone with Fake Out, you can swap in Serena, get rid of it. You can prevent priority with E-Speed, you can prevent Prankster. Like, it's such a useful ability that it gives Serena way more usage, in my opinion, or like want to use it other than these. Then you've got Oranguru, who is a relatively okay Trick Room set. I'd say it's around the same boat as Reuniclus, maybe a little bit worse than Reuniclus, because normal Psychic's a good typing, it's very specially bulky, and it has Instruct, which is a very good move under Trick Room. So I'd kind of put it in the same boat. Then we have Drampa. Unfortunately, Drampa got fucking nerfed for some reason. They decided to just give Mega Drampa Berserk instead of giving it some better ability. It's in the same boat, in my opinion, as something like a Altaria. Offensively, it's definitely better, but you kind of use it for the Cloud9. You can go offensive with Berserk and go Trick Room, and it could potentially work that way. But I just don't know why they didn't get Mega Drampa Drizzle. It would have been one of the best rain sets. Now, Mimikyu is a little bit weird one, to be honest. I think Mimikyu is kind of like low A, high B. I'll put it in low A for now. I'll just leave it there because I might end up changing it to B, which is why I'm going to leave it there. But, like, because you have essentially a free sub, it is really nice. You can get free setup and not have to worry about as much. You're immune to Fake Out. You've got 3 immunities anyway. So, I think Mimikyu is still a viable mon in double. Kamo is a mon that can be really good with its setup move, making it very, very hard to play around. But very weak to Fairy again. Common weakness, as I said before. Fake Out's a thing. If this Pokemon is consistently targeted and not allowed to set up, it just doesn't do anything. So, unfortunately, Kamo is a little bit worse. Corviknight is a bulky mon with recovery that can just exist and stay alive for a long time. So it's like mid-B tier. Doesn't do a lot of offensive damage, but can set up Tailwind. Poltergeist is a relatively okay setup sweeper that can do really good with support to let it set up. So, and with stored power and stuff existing, even though there is a lot of dark types currently, I still think that's fine. Hatterene is currently like low B tier in my opinion. Like, it has the potential to be really good, but because there is no Psychic Terrain currently, it doesn't do as much offensively. It's still a good special wall with Magic Bounce, still has good moves. Doesn't save it though, unfortunately. Then we have Alcremie, who's like low B tier. Alcremie's whole existence is support. Decorate is one of the most broken moves of all time. It goes through Protect, it gives stat buffs, it is just so good. Only thing with Alcremie, it is quite slow, but it is bulky, so it makes up for it. And Pure Fairy is a pretty good typing, so I think B tier is fine for Alcremie. Meowscride is a pretty solid offensive pressure. Physical wise, it's probably a little bit better than Scizor. Quicker, and those U-turns, knockoffs, flower tricks that are boosted by Protean are going to do good damage, so I think that's fine. Pawmot is like a fine Fake Out set, but that's about it. I don't like Pawmot, so I'm not going to give him any more credit. Okay, Revival Blessing's good, but that's about it. Mousehold is a okay Follow Me user. He is very frail, unfortunately, so he does kind of fall off a little bit, because if you do get hit with just a super effective damage, or even like not super effective damage but high attack or special attack, you're going to do a lot of damage, possibly die, but as in having the Focus Sash. Both Armarouge and Ceruledge are like B tier, like kind of like mid B tier. Armarouge is a bit better at the moment because Ceruledge is more singles based, and Armarouge doesn't have Psychic Terrain yet, so honestly they don't get any higher than that. Espathra's a weird one. I could see Espathra going higher, but Speed Boost, Skill Swap is nice. You can Stored Power, you can do loads of damage. Lumina Crash is a very good signature move. Offensively, Espathra is very scary. You just are a bit frail. And then the final one from B tier, I believe, is Hydrapple. A bulky mon with potential to do good damage with Regenerator. Only problem with Hydrapple is that there's a lot of ice teams going about. He's shit into sun. He's not good into weather, really. So, all in all, something like sand that he's good into. So, it doesn't... Even though Hydrapple naturally is quite good, that doesn't save him and give him enough to put him any higher than B tier. A tier, there's quite a lot as well, but there's nowhere near as many as there in B. Venusaur is a consistent sun pairing Pokemon that can outspeed Pokemon with Chlorophyll and do consistent damage. Blastoise is a very underrated Pokemon in my opinion in Rain. Shell Smash is a good setup, and Mega Launcher Water Pulse with his special attack stat in the Rain can do a lot of damage. Clefairy is a very solid A tier mon. Bulky, has good support moves. Mega has Serene Grace, which is nice, and is flying type, so you can avoid ground moves. I love Clefairy, so I can't not put him in A. Alolan Ninetales is the second best in my opinion. Snow Setter, I think it's a little bit better than Venusaur, to be honest. Aurora Veil's great, Fairy type's great. You do consistent damage as well, so I do rate you in A tier. Regular Arcanine is always consistent, in my opinion. Can't really go wrong with Arcanine. Intimidate, Beat Up, Justified. Strats are nice. We then have Starmie, who... Pure Power Starmie, I haven't seen as much, so I'm probably not going to put higher than Blastoise. But still does a lot of damage. 200 base attack. Also, there's some really fun skill swap strats with Starmie. So you can skill swap huge power into someone else that needs it, and then you can still use special moves. Aerodactyl... Actually, let's Gyarados first. Gyarados is also pretty consistent. I've seen a lot more of Gyarados than I would have expected to. He does Earthquake spam with it, which is fine. He's very consistent as well. Has a good setup. Aerodactyl is also very good. Annoying as fuck to play against. He's a little bit lower down in my opinion, because Mega Aerodactyl isn't as good. Because pure offense, he doesn't do as good, but Rock Slide, Flinch, and Pressure being a surprisingly good ability at the moment, because a lot of people rock Berries, he does still have more usage generally and more viability than a lot of these other mons. Hisuian Typhlosion is a really good Eruption spammer. It means Fake Out as well, but because obviously Weather Wars is so prominent, it can be countered very easily. Feraligatr is pretty good in my opinion as well. Mega Feraligatr with Dragon Eyes and a Dragon Dance is so scary offensively. If you let this thing set up, it will just nuke things. Houndoom is a really underrated Sun mon in my opinion. Solar Power Houndoom does really consistent damage and is a pretty good anti-meta pick into Pokemon like Gengar and even Pokemon like Gardevoir. Tyranitar is Sandsetter. Tyranitar is still good in my opinion. I do think Sand is a little bit meh at the moment because there isn't as many Pokemon to benefit from it. And plus the other weathers are currently just so much more broken. Like Hail and Snow got buffed so much because of Frostlass. Then we have Pelipper, who honestly I want to put Big Milk in S tier because I fucking love Pelipper, and he is the best rain setter. You know what? I don't care, I'm doing it. Then we have Sableye, who is a very good support mon in A. Dark Ghost is a great typing. He is just a bit frail. That's the only downside to Sableye. But Pine Shot, Encore, Fake Out is just really good. Will-O-Wisp as well. Gliscor is relatively good. Earthquake spammer that can avoid other earthquakes as well, which is nice. You can set up. Poison Heal's really good as well. In the right situation, if you can somehow get poisoned. But Hypercut is just nice anyway because of how many Intimidators there are. Rotom Heat is actually pretty solid. Choice Scarf Rotom Heat is a really weird Pokemon that works well into rain teams to get positioning and kill Pelippers, do good damage like to Basculegions, things of that nature. Choice Scarf Overheat can kill Pokemon like Venusaur. All in all, I can't really say much else about Rotom Heat other than he's underrated. Excadrill is A tier. He is good, but like I said before, I don't think he has as much place currently as some of the other mons in the current meta. Crocodile is a very good Intimidator. He isn't the best still, because Incineroar exists, but he does have multiple options. Choice Scarf, Moxie set is also really good, but I do prefer the Intimidate set on Crocodile. Golurk is actually a really good Pokemon. I've been using Golurk to get to Master Ball rank, but Trick Room, he does a lot of damage. 152 attack or something like that, with a speed stat that is slow enough to work in Trick Room and quick enough to work in Tailwind. I love Golurk. He has really good coverage as well, and if you have a support like Farigiraf with Helping Hand, he just one-shots things. He is really, really, really underrated. Volcarona, this is probably a hot take, he's going like high A tier. In my opinion, Volcarona isn't as viable as he normally is because of how many weather teams they're going on. Rain teams, sand teams still don't do, or do amazing into Volcarona. Sun teams, right, Volcarona doesn't have as much place currently. When the meta expands, Volcarona probably will do better, and he is more of a singles mon, to be fair, but all in all, Volcarona is still really good. Greninja is like close to being S tier in my opinion. I think he's really good offensively. You can work in snow teams with Blizzard Spam. You can catch people off guard with moves like Sludge Wave, Extra Sensory. He's really quick. His Mega's good. Like, I can't really say anything else. Greninja's just mint. The only downside is that obviously Protean got nerfed. Aegislash is a very, very good defensive wall. King Shield is still broken. I can't really say much else than that. Offensively, it can do really good. Because it's a slow Pokemon, it can swap in onto Pokemon like Gardevoir, take a move, and just destroy it. Also can work okay into Pokemon like Gengar. Shadow Sneak with priority does a lot of damage, so... Sylveon is pretty consistent at the moment. I've seen a lot of Sylveons. Hyper Voice just does a lot of damage. That's basically all there is to say. He's not the quickest Sylveon, but does a lot of damage, and Tailwind can work. Primarina is a bulky water type with the fairy typing that can work very well in doubles. You get good moves. You can position with Flip Turn. You do really good spread damage with like a Hyper Voice. It's water type. I don't really know what else to say about you. You are just pretty good. Crabominable is in the same boat to me as Golurk, a little bit worse, but he's still great. Grimmsnarl is still good, obviously. I mean, the amount of dark types, you can't use Parting Shot as often, but he still is very viable. I still would say Grimmsnarl is a good support Prankstermon. For everything else, Dragapult is still consistent. Really quick with U-turn to position, Dragon Darts hit both Pokemon, good coverage, you got Will-O-Wisp to go support, things of that nature, so I can't really say anything else other than positives, but he is quite frail and doesn't do extraordinary damage. Scovillain's another Pokemon in A tier that I think has potential. His Mega is very good, meaning that all physical Pokemon that hit him then get burned, which is a very, very fun and good ability, and can set up double in special attack and physical attack with growth in the sun, but does require a couple more things to work, and he is still relatively frail even with the defense and special defense buff, so he is like lowish A tier. Then you have Glimmora, who is high-end A tier in my opinion. Obviously you get Hazard Up, which is nice. Adaptability on Mega Glimmora, it does so much damage. It does have a bit of a crap typing though. Tinkaton is a good fake out support mon. You have Speed Control with Thunder Wave, you have good stab in Gigatom Hammer. You also have Slow On Call, which can be very good, so I do think you deserve that A spot. And then this is another hot take in my opinion. I'm gonna put Palafin in high A, like the highest of A, because Palafin's mint, especially in the hero form, can do so much damage. However, it can be a bit of a liability to have to get into that form. If you always have to lead Palafin if he is your main Pokemon, or if he hasn't had the opportunity to come out and then comes out late game and doesn't do enough damage. There is that aspect to it. Also, most sets are run with Choice Scarf, meaning that being locked into a water move or a fighting move or an ice move can be also a liability, especially with Pokemon like Gengar, who force Pokemon to stay in. So there is that to take into consideration. And then finally, obviously you've got S tier. Charizard is the best Sunsetter. Don't need to say anything else other than that. Gengar, Shadow Trap. Shadow Tag plus Perish Trap. Strats are now back. Awful to play against. Dragonite is very, very consistent. Is one of the best offensive rain mons now with Mega Dragonite. Gardevoir is always and will always be consistently good. Pixelate does so much damage with Hyper Voice. Milotic is also... Also, I forgot to put Milotic in A tier. Another underrated Pokemon in my opinion. Very, very good bulky water type that can just destroy teams because of how many Pokemon have Intimidate. Milotic has competitive, so he gets a +2 to its special attack. And you'd have a simple moveset of Recover, Scald, Icy Wind, and Protect. Not die, slow the opponent down, and do good damage. Garchomp is good. He's a little bit better, in my opinion, than... to be honest, maybe better than Charizard. More consistent, you can run in different ways. Earthquake Spam is just very powerful at the moment. Lucario's pretty good, a little bit worse than Gardevoir at the moment. Gardevoir has more raw damage output, but Lucario can do just as much damage, if not more, with Cell. And he also has E-Speed, which is nice. Frostlass, Mega Frostlass is mint. I'd actually argue as a weather Pokemon, Frostlass is a little bit better. Yet having access to Aurora Veil, being immune to Fake Out, having good moves like Destiny Bond as well is just so good. Frostlass is always a threat. Rotom Wash is very consistent in my opinion. Really good Volt Switch Pokemon, can pivot as well. So it allows us to pivot and get into much better mon. Lewis was a really good support move. A lot of them overrun Choice Scarf as well to outspeed things. You can go Citrus Berry to survive. There's so many sets that you can go with Rotom Wash that always end up being viable either way. Whimsicott is one of the best support mons, speaking of support. Encore, Tailwind is good enough. Manual terrain set with Sunny Day and things of that nature is always really good as well. Run it with a Focus Sash and you have possibly the best support mon. Delphox is really, really underrated in my opinion currently at the moment. I think this is a really, really surprisingly good anti-meta pick. That with Levitate in Mega Delphox form, you put it alongside a Garchomp, you just destroy most things. Encore as well is really helpful with people that like to protect, so... Then you have this bitch, Mega Floette. I absolutely despise this Pokemon. It's absolutely incredible. Fairy Aura does so much damage with Moonblast that even if you have a specially bulky mon, it's taking at least 50%. Incineroar, obviously... It's Incineroar. What do I need to say other than Wolfie Click voted the most broken Pokemon of all time? Then you got the Basculegions. I'll just put one of them in. I know they have different stat spreads, but they're both in the same spot. Basculegions, really, 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 really good. Swift Swim is incredibly consistent. You outspeed and kill a lot of things. Mostly you can position with Flip Turn. Wave Crash can nuke things. Last Respects is a win con to most teams. So Sneasler is a little bit better than... It's a little bit, or on the same tier kind of, as Basculegion. Fake Out, obviously support-wise, Diaclostal, one of the best moves in the game. White Herb, Unburden in close combat allows you to outspeed Scarf Mons, which is nice as well. Can work against Pokemon like Basculegion in the rain, but I'd say overall usage and importantness, and being important to a team, I think Basculegion takes it. Then you got the best Trick Room setter currently in the game, Farigiraf. He has as much place in S tier as any one of these mons does. Got Kingambit, who I originally debated putting lower, but I kind of came to my senses. Kingambit is very, very good. Very good defensive typing. You're also immune to Prankster, which is nice as well. You help deal with Pokemon like Gengar, Gardevoir, and Basculegion, these quicker threats that can do a lot of damage with Sucker Punch. So, and Defiant as well into Intimidators is very, very good. Then you have Sinistcha, who is probably the most annoying Pokemon to play against because it has Rage Powder. The only current Pokemon with Rage Powder, incredibly good support-wise, can set up, has recovery, vice versa, go on and on. And then And then you have Archulodon, who is one of my more favourite Pokemon to use at the moment. He is really, really good in rain. I think he's a little bit better than Basculegion in my opinion. I think he's more offensive from the go and doesn't necessarily require the speed. He has more bulk. Stamina's great. The only thing bad about Archulodon is that he got body press taken off of him. So that being said, this is my S tier. That's everyone in there. That's my A tier. That's my B tier. C, D, and then F. If you do disagree with this, I would love to understand where you'd put them. Because Champion's been out enough now really for people to actually have an opinion about these Pokemon. I would be interested to see how people rank them differently. This is my standpoint. But with that being said, we now go on to the top 5. In 5th is close between Sneasler, Basculegion, and Archulodon. Because I said I think I prefer Archulodon than Basculegion in rain teams, I'm going to put Archulodon in 5th. It's a great Pokemon to scare fake out mons because you get the +1 defense. With a Chopper Berry, it means that you can stay in against Pokemon like Sneasler and kill it. Draco Meteor one-shots Dragonite outside of multiscale, it one-shots Garchomp, it one-shots pretty much every other Dragon type in the game. You are surprisingly quick. Under Tailwind, you outspeed a lot of things. Electro Shot's a broken signature move under Rain to get +1 special attack. You can even just go in regular Thunder to do consistent damage and not having your special attack go down. Flash Cannon's a good stab. Like I said before, the only bad thing about him is that he did have body press taken away. Otherwise, he would easily be higher up, and because he could help deal with Pokemon like King Gambit. 4th, I'm going to go Incineroar. A little bit low, but Incineroar also did get nerfed and had Knockoff taken off, which does make him worse. Ironically, Knockoff is such a broken move. It ruins strategies just because Pokemon don't have their items. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of Megas, so that doesn't matter as much, but taking away a Choice Scarf, taking away a damage reduction berry, taking away a Citrus or Recovery is very, very good. Then we have Gengar. Gengar arguably could be higher because Perish Trap is broken. If you can play with it well and you can force opponent to sort of like not be able to play around it, you have instant wins. But there is a lot of ways to play around it as long as you're not an idiot. So, and because Gengar is naturally good anyway, and Mega Gengar does a lot of damage, is very quick, it does give him that 3rd spot for me. 2nd is Dragonite because Dragonite is consistently one of the best and most reliable offensive Pokemon in the meta. Rain is so popular. Spamming Hurricane in Mega with his special attack stat, having Draco or Dragon Pulse just for good Dragon Stab, setting up Tailwinds of your own if you want it. You do so much damage, you have reliable support, you can even go, I think, self-generation with like Roost and stuff. Like, Dragonite is so good. And the only like super negative situation you have against it is Snow teams. That's about it. And then in 1, it was debatable. Again, like I said, I think some of these could have been moved higher up, but because of how annoying to play against he is, and because of how broken Rage Powder is, Sinistcha is easily, in my opinion, the most viable Pokemon. Also partially for the reason, he can fit into any team. Whatever you have, he can fit in there. Doesn't matter what type of strategy you have, whether it's Trick Room, whether it's Tailwind, whether it's Rain, Sun, anything, it works. He has physical attack negation with Strength Sap. He has one of the most broken moves of all time, signature-wise. Machigotchi, which hits both targets, heals and can burn. He has recovery with like Citrus Berry as well as other forms of recovery. He has Selp. He just has so much to his kit that Sinistcha does take the cake in my opinion. I do think as time goes on, when more Rage Powdered Pokemon exist like a Mungastuff, he's going to go down. But as of right now, in current Regulation A, he is the best Pokemon. I wholeheartedly agree with that. But with that being said, that is the list. I'm happy with that. If you disagree with any of this, or even if you agree with any of this, please do comment it down below. If you'd like to see more tier lists in the future of any category, then please also do comment that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also follow my Instagram account, AngrySlowBro. And that being said, I'll see you in the next one.